Heidi with Healing Harvest Homestead, and I'm getting ready to make some pine tar soap. Pine tar soap is an old-fashioned soap that the pioneers and the people in the olden days used to make because it's a useful way to use pine tar. Pine tar is the residue that's left over after burning the rosin from the pine at a very, very high temperature. And it's kind of a, here I'll show you, it's a real liquid, black, tarry substance because it's a pine tar. I have this on hand because we use it for our livestock, specifically my horse and his hooves. So, you know, it comes in a little quart can here, and I will occasionally take a few ounces of it and make some soap up with it. So that's what I'm doing today. Let me go ahead and share the recipe with you. So soap making comes in a couple of different phases. There's your oil phase, and I like to get my oils all measured out first. The pine tar is part of the oil phase in this case. So for this soap recipe, I've got 8 ounces of coconut oil, and I've got 3 ounces of pine tar. So those are both really cleansing constituents of this recipe, or ingredients of this recipe. So together that's about 11 ounces of some really cleansing ingredients. And then I've got my olive oil, and I've got 14 ounces of olive oil. Olive oil is extremely good for your skin, and it's very, very conditioning. So it's gonna offset the cleansing qualities of the oil. And then I've got 2 ounces of castor oil and 3 ounces of shea butter. The castor oil lends your soap a nice lather. The shea butter gives it an extra moisturizing quality. So I've never made this recipe before, but I suspect it's going to be really nice. So let me talk about the water portion now. The water portion is going to be your lye and your water. So for this soap recipe, I've got 11 and 4/10 of an ounce of water, and I've got 3 92/100 of an ounce of your sodium hydroxide or lye. I've got my crock pot set up over there in the corner, and I've got my oils for this recipe, soap recipe, already in the crock pot. I like to get my oils all melted down before I go ahead and pour in my lye solution. And they're almost there. The shea butter is the last thing that's melting. So I'm going to go ahead now and get my lye solution mixed up. Since this is hot process soap, I don't really worry about the temperature of the lye solution very much. Whereas with cold process soap, you need to get your oil temperature and your lye water solution temperatures within a certain number of degrees of each other. But with this soap, you don't need to worry about that. So I'm going to go ahead and get my lye water mixed up here. You will notice I've got long sleeves on. I've got my gloves, I've got my glasses, so I am good to go. I've got my water all mixed up. I've got my lye beads all measured out. And I am simply going to stir everything really well. Now this part's important. You want to be sure you're pouring your lye into your water. A lot of people will wear face masks because this solution will give off fumes, and it's not real pleasant. So just be aware of that. I'm just careful not to breathe it in. And I usually have windows open, or I even will do this outside sometimes in the summertime. But with that said, you want to be sure that your pets aren't around, or that no animals are around, because my goodness, if they accidentally drank this, it wouldn't be good. This is a highly caustic solution and not something you want to mess with. So I'm going to keep stirring this for a moment until my lye is melted completely into my water. Sorry. One thing about mixing your lye with your water is that sometimes the lye will want to crystallize on the bottom of your container. You don't want that. So keep stirring until it's all mixed in. You want a nice clear solution. And as you can see, it was cloudy at first, and it's getting clearer and clearer. And look at that. Can you see the steam coming up? The steam is because of the chemical reaction between the lye and the water, and it gets really hot. I think it can get over 200 degrees, as a matter of fact. So really, that's quite hot. But again, since we're working with hot process soap making method, I'm not going to worry about the temperature. All right. I'm going to let that sit for a moment, and then we'll go ahead and pour it into our oils as soon as the oils are all melted down. Okay, so now I'm getting ready to combine my lye solution with my oils in the crock pot. I do have 2 crock pots here. I'm actually getting ready to make a rosehip seed oil soap too. So it's already heating up, and I'll be putting my oils in for that in just a moment. But I'm going to go ahead and slowly pour in my lye solution. And I can tell you that pine tar doesn't smell the greatest all on its own, but in this oil mixture, it's really releasing a nice scent. So I think it's going to smell really good. I may consider putting some pine essential oil in, but I haven't decided. We'll see. So I'm going to use a hand blender. And I'm going to go ahead and mix this to trace. And trace means that it's going to be like a thick pudding. Okay. So you're going to find as you start making soap, different recipes behave differently. And this soap is actually already starting to cook. I may not even need to put the lid on it. It's, I don't know if you can see that, but can you see how that's bubbling up right now? It's pretty interesting. This is actually one of the fastest cooking hot process soaps I've ever seen. It actually started cooking while I was stirring it to trace. And I was stirring it pretty fast, and I haven't even put the lid on yet. Normally I'll put the lid on and let it go for a few minutes, and you'll see the soap crawling up the side, which is what's happening right here, as a matter of fact. And then you stir it down real good. Oops, sorry, there's my dog Jax. Can't come in, bud, I'm making soap. No. Anyway, so this is going to cook quickly, and I imagine I'll be putting it in the soap mold really fast. Right now I'm going to stir it down. For that, I use a wooden spoon. Yeah, it's going to be a really nice soap. I love the color. It's a kind of a caramel brown color. Yeah, this is going to be good. I'm going to go ahead and put the lid on it now and let it go. Okay. Okay, so the pine tar soap is done cooking. I've done the zap test. It passed completely. It's translucent. It's waxy. It is completely finished. And the smell is actually pretty good when you're in the other room. But when you're in here, the turpentine smell of the pine tar tends to come out. So I am going to go ahead and add a couple of ounces of pine essential oil right now. I'll show you how that looks. The essential oil gets very hot at first, so I like to get it stirred down and have my crock pot turned off and just get it stirred in there really good and quickly. Ooh, it smells good. It smells so good. And then I'm going to go ahead and drop this into my silicone soap mold. They're my favorite ones to use for hot process soap. And then I'm going to let it cool for several hours. At this point it's dark, and I think I'm just going to let it cool overnight. So tomorrow I will show you what this looks like. I think it's going to be a very nice old-fashioned pine tar soap recipe, and turn out to make some nice Christmas gifts for people. All right, I'm going to go ahead and put this in the soap mold right now. One thing I wanted to mention is, you know, when you're doing YouTube videos, Not everything is getting shown. As a matter of fact, over here I've got another crock pot full of some oils going for some rosehip seed oil soap. So I'm a little bit divided between my soap recipes right now, but I wanted to let you know that I do have a soap making course for hot process. It is step-by-step, really short step-by-step videos. I want to say there's about 15 to 20 videos in the course, but and then there's tons of different recipes, all tested for hot process. You know, it's funny because many soap makers will tell you that hot process and cold process soap recipes translate over to each other every time, and that's not the case. So I like to actually test them out. And the reason they don't is because there's a chemical reaction even with some of your additives, and hot process soaps will sometimes act differently than cold process soaps. And cold process soaps often act very differently than hot process soaps. So when you know those things and you know how they're going to act, then you can be prepared. And one good way to do that is by taking a course. And it's not expensive, and I go over everything about soap making in that course that you would want to know. Safety, how to use oils and different carrier or different soap making oils to use, essential oils, there's charts. It's a really comprehensive, good course. So anyhow, I hope you check it out. I'll put a link below in case you're interested. So we'll be back in just a couple minutes, which will really be several hours, so I can cut this soap and you can see how it looks. Hey, so we're back, and it's been almost 24 hours since we made the soap, and we're going to go ahead and cut it. I've already taken it out of the silicone soap mold. And that's just really easy. Basically, you just peel off the sides and then just kind of press the soap out, and it comes out in a block. And my block is about this big, as you can see. I've already cut some bars because I'll be honest, the soap turned out a little bit soft, which is not a problem. Most hot process soaps will come out nice and firm, but they still benefit from a couple, 2-3 days of curing out. This soap is probably going to take about a week of cure time just to let the additional moisture evaporate in it, okay? So I want to show you what I did here. You can see that a hot process soap top can be rough, and this was just under the rim of the soap mold, so it was just going to be rough. There was no way I could cut the top off in the mold because it was underneath the rim. But since I want to give these soaps away and have a nice smooth top, I go ahead and just slice the top off like a little piece of cheese. So I've got a little like thin sliver slice, and now I have a nice smooth top, and it's a very pretty soap. This soap is kind of a it's a kind of a dark caramely brown color due to the pine tar, but I like it and I really like the scent. I'm glad I added the essential oil into it. I didn't have to, but it kind of mellowed out the turpentine scent from the pine tar a little bit. So this soap is going to yield 10 good 1-inch bars of soap, at least. Yep, about 10. And it's going to be a nice gift to give. So if you are interested in learning more about hot process soap, take a look below at my hot process soap making course link. I also have an ebook that's less expensive than the course. The course is really cheap. It's like $30-something, and the ebook comes free with it. So you get lots and lots of recipes with the course. If you're interested, I do explain everything about soap making that you need to know. Hot process method is the focus of the course. I mention a little bit with cold process, but I don't go in depth. So it's mostly for those who want to start doing hot process soap. Please subscribe to my channel. I would love that. And I hope you have a really great evening or day or whatever it is in your area of the world. Thanks for being here. I'm Heidi, Healing Harvest Homestead. Look me up on the web. tons of information on my blog, just tons. So I hope you'll join our community.